What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Filip Latocha, and today we are going to do our race recap of the Polish Independence 10K run that happened a few days ago, and I just didn't have the time to put a video together, edit, and all that. So I got some time now, a little bit after Halloween, so I gotta put my boy Scoobert away, and then yeah, we're back into turkey trot season after that. So before we get into it, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're subscribed watching this content. Thanks so much. Love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Strava for all sorts of running and other fun updates as we go along. So without further ado, let's talk about the race. First and foremost, I guess what we need to know is the results. And I'll tell you right now, I finished in 6th place with a time of 38 minutes and 49 seconds, and I was first in my age group, if that really means anything or comes up to anything for your records. But basically, it was kind of not necessarily an embarrassing performance from my end, but it was not as good as I wanted it to be, and there were visible moments where I messed up the race, I think, in my opinion, from mistakes I've made historically from racing and just being overly bold, I guess, or emboldened to do certain things during a race. So before we get into the actual race part, I guess we can backtrack to just the start of the race. Coming from my house, I slept maybe like 3-4 hours, I guess, the night before. For those watching this video in the future, like the way future, like Dogecoin is doing some stuff right now, so I was up for a little while the night of the race, just kind of playing around, flipping some Dogecoin stock and whatnot. And yeah, I digress. I guess the point was I slept 4 or 5 hours. We drove from Algonquin to the city. Took about 40 minutes to an hour maximum to get there. And I had an hour to, get set up, use the washrooms, kind of get, my warm-ups going and whatnot. But there were some moments which were kind of tricky for the run, one of which being that they ran out of pins for the bibs. So that was a very strange issue to have, and like my mom was there, my brother was there, and they were asking people for some pins if they can find them, and they ended up finding a few, and I ended up managing to get one at the very end when they brought more pins to the race. There's like literally one left on their like bib table or whatever, and I pulled the last one, and I already had 3, and I had the 4th one. It was like, cool, now I'm all set up, it's good to go. So I'm doing my warm-ups. I choose to obviously race in the Next Percent 2. That's going to be my prime race shoot of choice for a little while. And yeah, I kind of recognized one of the people from the year past who was one of like the top tier runners who, I don't know if he came from Poland and was like living in America now, or he was a professional that just flies in, races, and comes back. It's hard to say exactly what it was, but I recognized some of the individuals at the race, and I knew which was going to be the lead group and whatnot, what pace they were roughly going to run, and I knew when the race started that I was going to run with them for as long as possible, because I have 7,000 IQ, and when your race pace is going to be like 550, 6 minute per mile pace on a good day, but everyone is running 520s, 530s, you're going to run with the 520 group, because that just makes so much more sense, right? So gun goes off. There's a group of about 4 of us for the first mile, and we run somewhere from the average. Like, even in the first mile, the race is already almost determined that, like, the guy who's in front is running the 520, then there's like a 525, then like a 530, and I'm running a 540, 542 mile in the first mile. And I know it's not happening. I like smoked the entire thing in the first mile, and now I'm just falling apart. And I get passed up by, I believe it's like 2 more people gradually, like by the second mile, and by that point, I would say the order was kind of established, but there were some moments of like a bit of drama, I guess you can say. So for context here, there was a 5K and then there was a 10K run. They released the 10K guys first, and then they released the 5K runners a little bit later. What happens is that message wasn't clear for the 5K runners, so a lot of them started in the 10K pack. So a lot of the runners that were passing me up at this point, which made me feel like I was in 8th place, would end up taking the turn that goes to the 5K finish line rather than following me through the 10K. So there was a pack that was actually building behind me at like the 4.5 to 5K mark, and I thought they were going to basically stay with me and just push me down the top 10 list, which I was kind of nervous and was kind of expecting at this point. But by the time we passed the finish line turnaround for the 10K, that entire pack was gone. So either they were just like regular runners on the lakefront path, or they were doing the 5K and they kind of split in that direction. So after that, I was pretty much in no man's land for the entire race by myself. But yeah, my pace was really falling apart in the first 5K after the first mile because I blew it up. I tried to run the 5:20 pace, and it was just not. It was not there for me at all, and there was just a bad mistake that ended up costing me during the rest of the run because I just couldn't sustain the sub 6 or like the 6-minute flat per mile that I originally wanted to do. So the only saving grace in this entire run, as you'll probably see from my Strava splits, is when we start doing the second half of the run, which is now along one of my former training routes and, you know, one of my favorite sections of the lakefront path, where we're having a headwind, and it's actually cooling down the weather around us because it's like 45, maybe 50 and overcast, so it is quite warm during this race. And now we're getting a headwind, and now it's beginning to feel a lot more like 40 degrees. So I'm cooling down, and I'm able to find like a second, you know, I guess, I'm finding some momentum at this point. And I'm able to start returning my speed from 6:30 pace back to like a 6:20, and then I eventually end my last mile at about a 6:18 after we start getting this headwind and whatnot. And like, obviously when I finish the race, I am a little bit disappointed, but at the end of the day, I ended up finishing, again, somewhere where I expected to finish. I didn't think I was going to win this race. It takes a lot more training and a lot more speed to do such a thing for this particular 10K, because I know the field is like local, and I know it's pretty consistent and traditional. So in order to have a competitive chance at this field, you have to be able to run like a 5:30 minute per mile pace for a 10K. So that's kind of the baseline ultimately for this thing. And yeah, I was a little bit emboldened. I tried to run with that 5:30 group, ended up bonking pretty badly, and I ended up running like 6:15 or 6:20 pace for the entire race, which was, in my opinion, quite embarrassing considering that I've done a lot better earlier this year in a race where I was pacing myself a lot better. So yeah, 6th place with the 1st place finish in the age group. It is what it is. I'm not too happy with it, but I'm not mad. I think the most important takeaway from this is that last year when I was going to do this race, I got injured and I couldn't. I was going to do the hot chocolate race that morning at like 7 a.m., do the 15K run, be done by 8:15, 8:30, stick around for a few hours, and then go north to Montrose Beach from downtown to do this Polish Independence 10K on the same day. And I couldn't do my double whammy race because of injury, of course. So I was just happy ultimately to be able to do the race, be able to finish in the top 10 in this case, finish first in the age group, and put a time that was fairly consistent to what I can do for a 10K right now, even though I am a little bit sad that my 10K pace is kind of stagnated. Maybe because, you know, A, my training is not nearly as intense as it used to be, or B, I just haven't taken my training to the next level like I should. So those are kind of the thoughts at this point of this race, as I'm still in turkey trot training season, still building up some speed as we lead back into the marathon training season back mid-December. And there's still lots of updates to go, a lot of racing opportunities, and yeah, just plenty to do. But, you know, this is just the rust buster of 10K racing. So I'll end the video here. If you have any other questions about the race or anything of that sort, you know, just let me know in the comments below. But I think I'm going to end the video here. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.